My name is Rhonda Cruzy. I'm the transitional presbytery leader for Lehigh Presbytery. And this is Lynn Ingram, who is the liaison from the Committee on Ministry from Lehigh Presbytery. And we're here to answer any questions you might have. I would start off by saying that we are very sad that this has come to this, that this has happened. It's really heartbreaking that a pastor who starts in January ends by the end of December in the same year. And we never even got to an installation, and that's very sad. And so I want to start off by saying that it was a difficult decision for the presbytery to be involved at all, much less having it come to this. I will just sort of go through a really brief timeline of when I knew what was happening. It was in early September. I really hadn't heard any concerns until then, but my understanding is that there had been some conflicts before that. It's unfortunate that we didn't know about it because it maybe could have been taken care of. We met, Lynn wasn't involved in that yet, but we met with Bobby and the session separately and recognized that the conflict was deep enough that we needed to bring in some conflict mediators, which we did. And they set up a schedule and they also met separately with Bobby in the session and laid out a schedule for some sessions together. And that didn't get very far before there was additional events of conflict that happened, and we just recognized that it had gone too far. Hurtful things had been said on both sides. Actions had been taken, and so it was really sort of beyond repair at that point, and the conflict mediators agreed with that. And the Committee on Ministry met and took all of this information and agreed and it was a mutual decision. Bobby had said he had had enough, and the session had also come to a point where they didn't think it could be healed. So that's where we are now. Does anybody have questions?
I just wanted to state that the Committee on Ministry is we are a group of volunteers. I'm a member of Faith Presbyterian Church. So we're a group of volunteers who volunteer our time. We do a 3-year or 6-year, and retired pastors. And our position is to walk with congregations during things, not to make decisions for congregations. We don't come in and say this is the way it's going to be. We try to work with the congregations. I personally did not know, I don't know any of the details of this conflict at all. I wasn't involved from the beginning. No one shared with me anything that was going on. I came to the session meeting, the last session meeting. I know that session had been working, and Pastor Bobby had been working with the mediation team, and that the mediation team and the session and the pastor all came to the same conclusion, that the mediation was not going to solve this problem. And so the presbytery then helped to work with session on drafting the letter. helped talk to Session, about a package. Because my understanding is that, the conflict is not with everybody in the congregation, that there's many members of the congregation that didn't know anything was going on. And so that makes it especially hard for those who didn't know what was going on, thinking that somehow something went on behind the scenes and a decision was made for your congregation. And that's not the case. If there was another way that this could be solved, between the session and Pastor Bobby, then it would be done. All we're doing is walking with the process and helping to make it as smooth as possible. So I'll be happy to answer any questions either one of us will.
So with that being said, everything you just mentioned,
Hold on, please.
as part of the member of this congregation for the last 25 or so years, what is the conflict? It's just like you're living in a shroud of secrecy here. You're not being told by your session. We're not hearing it from you folks. What is the conflict?
Okay, first of all, it wouldn't be Committee on Ministries' job. Like I said, I personally don't know what the conflict is. That is a conversation
Well,
that
I'm asking the question on behalf of all of us sitting here who have know absolutely nothing.
Well,
Can someone, can our clerk of sessions, can somebody in our session stand up and tell us what is so earth-shattering that in less than a year's time, we're losing another pastor when we already know we're gonna go through this process for another 2 years, and there's nobody out there. There's nobody out there to find.
I would say a large part of it was, expectations of what a pastor should be and do were not clearly communicated to Bobby. The expectations of all the things that he should be doing and saying and all that. And resentment, he wasn't doing some of those things, but rather than, sitting down honestly and saying, we're upset because this isn't happening or this is whatever, it was allowed to fester. And, until it got to a point where, there was a lot of resentment and anger. So that was part of it. Part of it was, bad communication, in terms of, at meetings, saying things in a tone or a way that, made people think that he was angry or whatever, that he was trying to, shut down conversation. I mean, there was a lot of misunderstanding on both sides, around how things were communicated. So I would say, and like I said earlier, in anger, things were said, on both sides that they might wish they could take back, but it was said and.
I get that. I understand. I was in business for 45 years, I understand that. What I don't understand is why do we have to suddenly not have a minister in our church? People continually say things in life that they say and then they regret later on. It's happened to me, not in this church, in my former church. But I just don't understand how within less than a year's time, things were that bad that this couldn't be resolved.
Well, we did try. We brought in people who were trained by the Lombard Peace Institute.
Okay, I got it.
To try to resolve that. Yes, ma'am, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'd like to say, the gentleman Pastor Bobby, that you're trying to represent, doesn't represent the man that I met as our minister. And my husband had Alzheimer's really bad, and I couldn't attend church because I was his caregiver. I was him. And he passed away now, but before that, like this summer, he came to visit my husband at the hospital. He's not a member, my husband was not a member of this church, and spoke very nicely to my husband, you know, giving him hope and all that, and both of us. He came to my home to give me communion when I couldn't make it. He came back the second time just to visit and see how my husband was doing. I felt somebody that I hadn't even met because I couldn't make it to church. I thought, well, wow, what a big heart this man has, you know. So I'm really hurt by the decision. My husband passed away, and I've been able to get back to church, you know. I just feel really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and as I said, we all feel very bad, and certainly we're not trying to make Bobby out to be some sort of monster. He has good pastoral skills. He's, you know, it just personalities and expectations, and I don't know. I wasn't personally involved, but
Right.
Yeah.
How did it get this bad before anybody knew what was going on? You know, that the congregation didn't realize anything
No.
until all of a sudden we're told we're losing our pastor.
As a member of a congregation, what I'm hearing from you is that if I was a member of this congregation, I would be going directly to either Pastor Bobby, or I would be going to members of my session and having a conversation with them.
Well, we kind of feel there's nothing we can do as a
it's
congregation.
over.
It's over, you know, and we just found
And
out.
we are sad about that, we are
Yeah.
sad about that. You know, the committee on the presbytery was notified in the 11th hour, and you know, we tried to work both with the session and the pastor. It's not like we came in and said, okay, you're leaving, and this is the way that it is. Your session had a meeting, your session decided that this is the course of action. Your pastor decided this was the best course of action. I'm sorry that, you know, things weren't shared with you along the way. I can't answer why that is or why that wasn't. Because we weren't here, we weren't part of that early process.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I can answer your questions, mostly. The reason your session didn't come to the congregation is we really truly thought we could fix it. And if we could fix it, none of you would be the wiser, none of you would be hurt, and it would be okay. It didn't work out that way. And quite honestly, the situation escalated and escalated and escalated. There's nobody here that's more disappointed or more hurt than I am. And all of you have to know that. We brought him here with such great expectation and great hope. It's been devastating. I can also tell you that nobody made these decisions lightly or without a lot of consideration and a lot of prayer. And I'm sure that includes Pastor Bobby as well. I can also tell you that a lot of the things you're never going to know because of privacy laws. He didn't do anything illegal, nothing wiggy about, you know, weird stuff. But we truly cannot discuss everything that we know or that we learned or that we've talked about. And I want you guys to understand, it did not happen easily, it did not happen lightly, and nobody is sadder than your session. But unfortunately, it's one of those things, it's what it is. And it was the best decision for him. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's an absolutely fantastic guy. there's a place for him. And I pray every single day that we all find our spot and that we all find our happy place. For him, for us, for Presbytery, for CO, everybody. But know that we didn't bring it to you initially because we thought we could fix it.
And part of being a Presbyterian church is that you elect your session members. That's part of, we're not a Congregationalist church. So not everything happens at the congregation level. You vote your session members in and you trust them to do the best job for the congregation. So understand what Janet said is they did not take this lightly, and it's been a very difficult decision for everybody. And unfortunately, feelings are hurt because not everybody in the congregation knew. And that's.
Anybody that knows me knows that what I talk too much, and I probably see too much, and I hear too much. That I think we are a victim of the pandemic. I think the whole situation has been in a vacuum for a lot of the year. On a Sunday morning, we have not had more than 50 people in this room. Everybody has watched on YouTube and whatever. A few people like Linda have had the benefit of a personal relationship. If you would check our church roster and ask people who are not here on a Sunday or did not have that special connection that Linda had, how many people have had personal contact with Pastor Bobby? And I think that's all I have to say.
Well, I'm sure that was a contributing factor. It's been a hard, any pastor who has started a call during the pandemic has been put in a very difficult place. And he's not the only one in this presbytery. In fact, or in this synod, or in the denomination, I co-led a discussion, I guess you call it sort of a support group for a group of pastors who started calls during the pandemic, and it just caused all kinds of anxiety. They couldn't meet people. It's all about relationships between a pastor and a congregation, as you said, and that was really difficult, if not impossible, to develop. So that was definitely part of it. Thank you.
Well, if there was no misconduct, which is written by the session, Pastor Bobby's part, there was no misconduct.
No, there was no misconduct.
Then I'm not understanding how any other minister that comes into our church is, you know, what the rules are that he has to conduct himself above and beyond.
That's a very good question.
So it's just.
And that's what I was talking about when I said expectations.
Yes.
That were not made clear. And that should have been done. Or if he was not doing something that people wanted him to be doing, like attending every single event or, you know, being available for this, that, and the other thing, then that should have been pointed out rather than, you know, building resentment. So, you know, and I would also say that, that this congregation and the session need to really look at the systemically what it is that allowed this to happen. That this, you know, what is it about this system, you know, in addition to the pandemic, that allowed this all to develop and fester without good communication, without honest, you know, relationships. And that's something that we need to look at, before another pastor is searched for. Yes.
I am a member of session. I wasn't able to make the 2 meetings that you had, but I would like to know that within 2 meetings with session, 1.5-hour sessions, how you determined that this was unfixable.
It wasn't determined during the session meetings. It was brought to us in conversations with Bobby, who said, I can't do this anymore. And the session, who said, you know, this has really gotten out of control. So it wasn't in the context of a session meeting per se, it was the information that was brought to us.
So would it be fair to say that the committee who looked for Bobby, and we found Bobby, would it be fair to say that that committee did not lay out the expectations? Would it be fair to say that our session early on, before things got out of control, I just heard a couple of things that just set a number of bombs off in my head. Is it fair to say that our session early on didn't take control of the situation?
No.
Is it also fair to say that the current session was not very acceptable to change? Because Bobby is change. And in my opinion, Bobby is good change for this church.
Mm-hmm.
Went through the last 25 years of being wishy-washy everything. That's another subject.
I was on that committee
Both of them.
that searched for Bobby. Yeah, I'm back here. I'm hiding. I did not wear my dress shirt, and I don't want anybody to see me. I was on that committee, and it was full and clear documentation on what was expected by that committee. Yes.
Well, I agree with Ann, we're a victim of the pandemic. I think we should have been given more time. On one hand, you say he doesn't visit people. I can tell you so many stories where we didn't get visits from other ministers too, when we had situations. But I just think it's the pandemic, and I think it's a terrible loss for this church and this community.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree that it's a terrible loss, but again, let us state that it wasn't the committee on ministry that came in and said, okay, your pastor's
I
going.
understand, yeah, and I think we'll be in this situation again. Who's gonna wanna come here? We kept the minister for 1 year.
Yeah, well, Bobby's in a hard place too, because he's looking for a job after having left within 1 year, so.
I talked with him, he is such a gentleman, he did not say one thing, other than he apologized to me for the situation.
Yeah,
I have to leave, I have another appointment, please don't take my exit as any kind of anger or anything, our daughter's expecting us.
And like I say, I can't believe I'm the only one that he reached out to in such a way. I can't be the only.
I don't believe
No.
You know, that he
No.
reached out in such a way that,
there are other people who
Thank
also experienced his
Yeah.
pastoral care.
I mean, he's only one man, so I don't know what was expected that he didn't, do, but, and I didn't ask him to come to my home, I didn't ask him to come to the hospital. He found out, things, and he came, and I just felt really, that was the best I ever felt about a pastor. And I've been here, I was married here in 1960 by Reverend Anderson, so, it's been a lot, I just don't see how we're gonna get another man that, will want to,
Yeah.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
I was not on session, I had been on session before, but not at this time. But I have been, on other committees. A pastor's job is many, many faceted. He has to deal with a lot of different things. In the congregation, in the service, all the congregation sees Bobby as part of that many-faceted thing, part. It's like a puzzle. We're all puzzles. We're all like a puzzle, every single one of us. How we deal with business and how we deal with our children are different. It has to be. The man that we saw giving a sermon every morning, or every Sunday morning, was a different person than sat in a meeting, whether it be session, Christian ed, mission, whatever meetings he's in. And I think that might have been where the conflict was the hardest. He did visit people, and the pandemic probably prevented him from being in the places he would have liked to have been because of being, it's a new life, it's a new reality for us. It's not an excuse, it's something that we have to deal with every single day, and so did he. But there's a part of his duties and a part of his life that was unacceptable. And the expectations you feel were not all on session and or us. Some of his expectations were not met. I don't know what they are, but some of them were not met. So, as hard as this is for all of us, and for him, the one thing we have to remember is it was mutual. If he had stayed, his heart would have been broken as well as ours. It is broken too, I'm sure, as well as our heart, because we all thought this was it. This is gonna be, we're gonna have this guy here for 10 years. We're gonna maybe raise children, see him marry and raise children. It didn't happen. Just like it didn't happen that we could go to the store when we want to and not wear a mask. It's a very upsetting time for all of us. It hurts us all, and I'm sorry that we all don't know everything that went on. But the man that stood at that pulpit is not always the man that was in a meeting. It was very hard to deal with. And I hope God blesses us all.
Thank you, Gloria.
I think that points out that different people in this congregation have different experiences of Bobby.
Absolutely.
Very different. So.
Anybody else have anything?
In 2 weeks, there will be a congregational meeting to vote on the dissolution and separately the terms of the dissolution package. So I'm hoping that you'll all come, even though it is a very sad occasion, come. And then on the 26th, there will be an opportunity to say goodbye. There's something happening, I don't know what, but an opportunity for, it's important to have a good farewell, and express your appreciation to him for the things that he has meant to you. And then there will also be a policy that he will sign and that the session will sign on behalf of the congregation that makes it really clear that once he's gone, he's gone. And, even though we know that he lives locally, it'll be really important for him to have space, for you to have space, and for there not to be any contact for a period of time, and certainly not reaching out to him to do any pastoral, care or weddings or funerals or anything like that, so. Anything else? Then I would like to close us with prayer.